Okay, we're live now.
Hello, everyone. This is Abhilasha Tyagi, and on behalf of the Indian Academy of Geriatric Student Chapter, I welcome you all to Discourse. Discourse is an international debate competition for undergraduate medical students. The debate will not only sensitize the students towards the needs of older persons, but will also help them to think deeply about such topics at an early age in their medical career. We believe that debating is one of the best means to ignite a conversation and enable the participants to explore various challenges and ideas around the issue. This event will give the students worldwide an opportunity to interact and collaborate with each other and with the pioneers and renowned professionals from the geriatrics field. It'll promote a healthy competition and constructive discussion on this very important topic and help them to gain an insight into the dilemmas faced by doctors on a daily basis. The topic for discourse is Euthanasia is Ethical. Why prolong a painful existence? On that note, I would like to call upon my co-host Shivangi to introduce our wonderful judges for today.
Thank you so much, Abhilasha. It is indeed a pleasure and a privilege to welcome our esteemed judges for today's event. First, we have with us Dr. Tribudi Raharjo. Dr. Raharjo is a professor at Universitas Indonesia and Universitas Respati, Indonesia, for gerontology issues. Since March 2010, she has also been the director of the Center for Aging Studies, Universitas Indonesia. She has been a member of board of Active Aging Consortium Asia Pacific since 2009, technical advisor for Healthy Aging Strategy to WHO in 2015, and a member of steering board of APRO Population Aging Research Hub since 2014. Her current research interests include the fields of aging and dementia, age-friendly communities and cities, long-term care, and quality of life of older persons. Thank you so much for joining us today, Doctor.
We have with us Dr. Philip Nishki. For over 2 decades, Dr. Philip Nishki has worked to further the voluntary euthanasia and rational suicide debate around the world. In 1996, Dr. Nishki became the first physician in the world to administer a legal lethal voluntary injection to 4 terminally ill patients under the Northern Territory's Rights of the Terminally Ill Act. The Deliverance euthanasia machine that he developed to deliver the lethal drugs is now on permanent display in the British Science Museum in London. Dr. Nishki co-founded the New Tech Research Organization with the goal of using new technologies to provide rational adults with more reliable and peaceful means for a do-it-yourself elective death. He also holds a PhD in applied physics from Flinders University and is a graduate of Sydney Medical School. We welcome you, Dr. Nishki.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
We have today with us Dr. Claudia Meyer. Dr. Claudia Meyer is a research fellow at the Bolton Clark Research Institute in Melbourne, Australia. Dr. Meyer combines her skills as an experienced physiotherapist with her research expertise, moving research into action, specifically in the falls prevention, health equity, and dementia care. She's currently the Vice President of the Australian Association of Gerontology and is also the Asia Oceania Student Early Career Representative for the International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics. We welcome you, Dr. Meyer.
Thanks for having me along.
We have with us today Dr. Panduka Karunanayak. He's a professor in clinical medicine, Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo. Thank you so much for joining us today, Doctor.
Thank you.
We have with us Dr. Tan Guo Jing. He's a lecturer in general medicine in the University of Malaya. He obtained his MRCP from UK in 2012. His interests include medical education, medical diagnosis, and humanities as applied to medicine. We're pleased to have you here with us, Dr. Tan.
Thank you for having me.
We also have with us today Mr. Swaran Kumar. Mr. Swaran Kumar worked as an apprentice with the Advocate on Record at the Supreme Court of India from 9th March 2000 to December 2002. He has been practicing independently since December 2002 in the Supreme Court of India, Delhi High Court, and Delhi subordinate courts. He has also represented India in several important cases, including the Katwa gang rape case, water distribution dispute between the states of Punjab and Haryana, land acquisition for SEZs, etc. He is a member of the International Council of Jurists. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
We have with us Dr. Francis Norwood. Dr. Norwood is an assistant research professor in the Department of Anthropology and the Institute of European, Russian, and Eurasian Studies at George Washington University. With a PhD in medical anthropology from the University of California, San Francisco, and Berkeley, Dr. Norwood has 20+ years experience conducting health policy research on innovations in home and community-based care, long-term care, and end-of-life support for persons who are elderly and persons living with disabilities. We welcome you, Dr. Norwood.
Thank you very much.
Helen Keller once said, "Alone, we can do so little, and together, we can do so much." We'd like to introduce our partner organizations, without whom this event wouldn't have been possible. The International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics. This is the largest international organization working in the areas of elder care in the world and has partner organizations in each country.
UCMS. The University College of Medical Sciences is an esteemed government medical college in Delhi, India. It is a part of the Delhi University. The debate is being held as an event during the Golden Jubilee celebration of the college as it completes 50 years of its establishment.
The Association of Gerontology, India, started with the mission to propagate gerontological research in India and develop it as a discipline to train manpower for better care of our elderly.
AMSA. AMSA is a student-led, non-profit, non-governmental, peak representative organization for medical students from across Asia, the Asia-Pacific, and beyond. It is committed to highlight all the issues which are affecting the medical fraternity. Asian Medical Student Association India is the Indian chapter of AMSA and is one of the largest medical student organizations in India. INPEA, International Network for Prevention of Elder Abuse. Founded in 1997 and dedicated to the global dissemination of information as a part of its commitment to the worldwide prevention of the abuse of older people.
Sri Lanka Association of Geriatric Medicine, SLAGM, is a non-profit organization established for promotion of geriatric education and to uplift the standard of living of elders in Sri Lanka.
URINDO, Universitas Respati, Indonesia, is a private higher education institution located in the large metropolis of Jakarta. A co-educational Indonesian higher education institution, it offers courses and programs leading to officially recognized higher education degrees in several areas of study.
Active Aging Consortium Asia Pacific, or ACAP. ACAP is an organization with an international flavor which promotes active aging and is dedicated to improving quality of life of older people across the world.
And now we have a very interesting piece of information, the prizes to be won. The winning team will be given a prize of $1,000. The second prize is $500, and the third prize is $300. I would like to thank our sponsors who made this possible: the International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics, ACAP, and URINDO.
As we approach the beginning of the debate, let's take a moment to abreast ourselves with the rules that will be governing today's debate. First of all, each team will be composed of 2 participants, one required to speak for the motion and 1 member against the motion. The event will begin at 12 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Each team will be allotted a time slot and they should be present at the given time slot. Teams will be called one by one. The speaker speaking for the motion will be speaking first, followed by the speaker speaking against the motion. This will be followed by questions for both the speakers by the judges. The duration of each speech will be 3 minutes. An on-screen timer will be shown, which has a 5-second countdown to cue the speaker. Participants are requested to strictly adhere to the time.
There will be no rebuttals by the teams. The language of the debate shall be English only, and any language that is considered inappropriate by the judges will lead to disqualification of the team. The participants are requested not to mention their names, universities, or their country of origin. Only team names are to be mentioned wherever necessary.
And now let's see the judgment criteria. First is content, which is basically the facts presented to support arguments. Second is comprehension, that is based on the demonstration of understanding of the topic and the information related to the topic. Delivery, communicating clearly, voice inflection and delivery rate. And finally, persuasiveness, based on how convincing and logical the arguments were. The candidates will be scored out of 10 in each criteria. Please note that the marks from the judges of the same country shall not be counted in the total scores for each team, and the decision of the judges will be final. Good luck to all the participants and may the best team win.
Okay.
So we will be starting with the first team at 12:20. The speaker speaking for the motion will begin the debate. May I request the team 1, team chemistry, to be ready. Is team chemistry here? If they're here, we can start right away.
Yes, we are chemistry.
Okay, great. So starting with the very first speaker of today, the speaker speaking for the motion from team chemistry.
Hello. So once the time starts, you can start speaking. All right?
Okay, so can we start now?
Yes. Okay, so your time starts now.
Okay. Each of us has the right to decide how we live. As death is inevitable in any life, we should have the right to decide how we die as well. Especially for terminally ill patients, longer life isn't always better. So, firstly, why do some terminally ill patients need euthanasia? This is because some of them can no longer feel dignified due to the unbearable amount of pain and absence of a chance to recover. I'm talking about patients with stage 4 cancer who have everlasting chronic cancer pain and dyspnea for which opioids are no longer enough. I'm also talking about patients with ALS who have to endure their condition of gradually losing the ability to move, communicate, and eventually breathe while being perfectly conscious. Since their prognosis is predictable and short, and since the treatment options are unavailable, they have no way out of these extremely painful and hopeless situations other than euthanasia. So who has the right to force them to live when those patients have already said enough is enough? Secondly, why is euthanasia legitimate and justified in such patients? This is because we, human beings, should get to decide and shape how we live as individuals. You are the only person who knows your own body, your own experiences, and your value system. So the position that people want to take when they face death can differ from person to person. Some people want to seek a way to live till the last moment, and others want to gently smile to death and accept it. So it is perfectly justified for patients to decide how they die. For these reasons, I think we should allow euthanasia as the only way to fully respect patients' autonomy. Of course, if euthanasia becomes available, some people might choose to die due to external pressure. However, several measures can ensure an independent, informed consent from each patient who wants to take this option. For instance, in Netherlands and Belgium, 2 or more independent physicians have to confirm the followings. A, the patient is in an unbearable pain. B, the patient has information about the prognosis. C, the patient has no reasonable way out of distress. And D, the patient voluntarily and repeatedly requests death, not under the pressure from others. Considering the fact that we are now exerting massive external pressure to force everyone to live, we need a system like this in order to respect the will of both patients who want to live and who want to die. In conclusion, respecting the people's autonomy should be prioritized because the patient's final answers are different depending on the person and the situation. For all these reasons, I am very happy to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, speaker.
Thank you.
I would like to request Dr. Panduka Karunanayaka to ask a question to the speaker.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I was just wondering whether accepting euthanasia as a principle
Yes.
would also accept the principle of inequality of life, that some lives are more worth and others are less worth. How would you respond to that?
I'm not saying that you mean the value of the value of lives is different person to person, right?
That is right. Yes, yes. Because if we say that euthanasia is an acceptable action, that means you are also aren't you also accepting that certain lives are not worth living or not worth keeping alive, and other lives are like that. So would we be also accepting the principle of inequality of lives or values of lives?
I'm not saying that we can accept the inequality of lives. I'm not saying that people's lives are not worth living, but however, some patients might feel that their lives have no meanings because they cannot feel dignified or satisfied due to the painful and hopeless situations. I think we should respect the person's autonomy that they want to die. So I want to say that prioritizing autonomy over objecting outcomes can be seen in other examples such as DNL or Jehovah's Witnesses or hospice care. So I think it can be acceptable.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite the speaker speaking against the motion from Team Chemistry.
Can you hear me clearly if I speak like this?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So could you please start the countdown, please?
Yes.
Just because a person wants to die now doesn't guarantee that the decision is absolute nor final. Since what is taken away here is a person's life, we should err on the side of caution. There are 3 reasons why we can't sometimes trust the decisions as they are. Firstly, there's obvious external pressure. Not only do they see the burden on the society in general, they have to see the burden on their family. They have to see the bill of massive medical fee. Some patients have to see their family getting gradually exhausted because they have to look after the patients 24/7 at home. It is quite natural that those patients develop some sense of guilt for staying alive and therefore get pressurized to die. Secondly, patients' choices can be negatively distorted by other people's decisions. For instance, if they see another patient with the same disease choosing to die because that person no longer finds any meaning in life, that alone can make them question the value of their own existence as well. Note that some terminally ill patients are already vulnerable, depressed, and struggling to believe that they are still worth living. This implicit pressure can also inhibit their spontaneous will to live. Lastly, even if some patients choose to die out of a completely free will, there is little ground to conclude that that is the final answer for them. Kubler-Ross suggests that terminally ill patients experience several different emotions before accepting death, such as denial, anger, and depression. Patients' perception of life can change drastically through time, and it is quite possible that those patients will rethink their decisions later on. The point of those 3 points is that we can't be sure if those patients really want to die as the final answer in their lives. And why can this point be the ground not to legalize euthanasia? Because if the affirmative values patients' autonomy, this is rather violating that principle because they are killing people who actually don't want nor fully decided to die. They are posing an antithesis to their own value, and this is already disqualifying on its own. Having all that said, we have to recognize an ultimate trade-off. Patients who want to die can't die, or patients who don't want to die might die. So the question becomes, which should be prioritized? We should err on the side of caution, i.e. the side of living, simply because of the fact that death is irreversible. There are at least some measures to mitigate patients' physical and psychological pain, such as opioids and psychotherapies. Also, advancement in medicine always leaves uncertainty on whether their conditions are still terminal in the very near future. However, if we let people die out of their vaguely confirmed conclusions, there is absolutely no way to even try to bring them back to life again. Ending life, therefore, should be treated more cautiously, even at the expense of some patients' choice to live. For all these reasons, we're happy to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Chemistry. Would like to request Dr. Karuna Nayaka again to ask a question to the speaker.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. It was very interesting. But aren't we arguing that the value of autonomy is somehow diminished in that case, and it's superseded by the collective will of the people, the collective will being more important and reliable, even pattern over individual autonomy?
Could you please repeat that latter part? Because I have a
Yes, sorry. What I meant to ask is whether you are arguing that individual autonomy is somehow diminished and less important than the collective will, and perhaps the collective will should have a paternalistic overriding influence over individual autonomy.
We clearly say no to that question, because what I'm argued is not that the society, the vague concept of the society should impose something paternalistically on patients' decisions, but it's that patient's decision, even if it seems spontaneous, can sometimes be the result of distortion from outside pressure. And just trusting that decision as it is basically violating the patient's real autonomy, which was basically distorted by some other people. I think that is terrible, and we want to protect patients' autonomy and prevent some kind of like negative, irreversible consequences on patients who are not ready to die. Yeah, that's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Chemistry. And thank you, Dr. Karuna Nayaka, for the questions.
1 second, Abhilasha. Just a small announcement. I'd just like to mention here that our 3 judges who are not representing any country, Dr. Meyer, Dr. Norwood, and Dr. Nishki, you're free to question any of the teammates and teams and speakers at any point of time. Thank you.
Do we have speakers for code blue? Team
Yes,
code
hi,
blue.
over here. Yeah.
Right. Are both the speakers present?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to invite the speaker speaking for the motion for Team Code Blue.
All right. So, yeah, you can start. A very good afternoon to the moderator. Has it not started? All right. A very good afternoon to the moderator, esteemed judges, members of the floor, and my fellow member of the opposition. I am here to affirm that euthanasia is ethical and there is absolutely no reason to prolong painful existence. First and foremost, deeming euthanasia ethical would be a nod towards respecting patients' autonomy. Autonomy also happens to be the first and very important pillar out of the 4 pillars of medical ethics. Dying is a human right and it is exceptionally personal to each and every individual. Think about it. We are able to choose all kinds of things in life, from our life partner to our job. And when I think it comes to the end of one's life, we should be able to choose what happens to you. I can already see the wheels turning in the opposition member's head. You might be thinking of the slippery slope argument, but as a result from various studies done in countries that are already implementing euthanasia laws, we have not seen evidence of the slippery slope, and there is no good reason to believe that the experience on that front would be any different in any other countries in the world. Next, euthanasia is an alternate option to cease the patient's suffering, be it physical or mental. Let me tell you about the tale of Diane Pretty. Miss Pretty had motor neuron disease and she wanted to control the time and manner of her death. Alas, she was unable to kill herself due to the disabling nature of the disease and required her husband's help to kill herself. But her husband will be prosecuted for aiding in her death. I know the opposition will say something like, palliative care is more than enough to relieve suffering. But we need to consider the fact that palliative care can only do so much with one's suffering. Suffering is an individual experience and there are many ways to resolve them. Euthanasia is one. And for my last point, euthanasia improves perception of death. And I'm specifically addressing Oregon, USA over here, as the state legalized physician-assisted suicide in 1997, which has given researchers enough time to study the long-term effects of implementing euthanasia. It was observed that the people of Oregon are the most health literate in the world around the subject of death, as it is presented to them as a viable option among many other end-of-life care services. Popular arguments made by people opposing euthanasia is that the legalization of euthanasia will cause other end-of-life care services to regress, which is far from the truth. Research in Oregon showed that palliative care actually started to thrive after the legalization of euthanasia, as the people of Oregon are now more health conscious and are more comfortable having candid conversations about death. They acknowledge death to be a natural part of life. I would like to reiterate my point. If we deem euthanasia ethical, we would be respecting patients' autonomy, ending patient suffering, and improving society's perception of death. With that, I would like to stress once more that euthanasia is ethical and there is no reason to prolong painful existence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to request Dr. Rahajo to ask a question to the speaker. Dr. Chibudi Rahajo, are you present?
Sorry. I'm really happy with the presentation, but I'm still want to know about the argumentation. Why sometimes euthanasia can be accepted or not? And how about in your country? Thank you. Is it clear?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question once again? I would just like to confirm.
So I understand what you have presented, but I'm still want to know about the argumentation, whether the euthanasia can be implemented or not. Because sometimes in Asian countries like Indonesia and India, the religion is also influenced very much in that.
Yes, that's actually a very fair point. that, of course, our argument today was about the ethical part of it. And religion does play a huge role, especially in very religious countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and etc. And I think it is absolutely possible to implement euthanasia, though it might take some time because of the religious aspect of it. But if we are able to get over the religious aspect, and I'm very sure it's very much possible to implement euthanasia in such countries. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'd now like to request the speaker against the motion for Team Code Blue to begin his presentation.
Right, sure. Sorry, will the timer reset itself? All right, okay, thank you. Good evening to the moderator, judges, members of the floor, and my fellow member of government. Today's motion, euthanasia is ethical. Why prolong painful existence, is one I disagree with wholeheartedly and will present arguments to the contrary. So there are two ways we can respond to suffering. On one hand, it might be better to put them out of their misery than to let them suffer, to place a high regard on the personal autonomy than to look at the so-called intrinsic value of life. On the other hand, accepting the existence of suffering in all of its forms, provide sufferers with every available assistance and accompanying them with palliation and love in their final journey. So both of these arguments might appear to be based on the moral foundations of mercy. However, the second is much more demanding. So why are we still having this discussion? The latter way of responding to suffering views life as having an intrinsic value. No matter how reduced the quality of life may be, all our lives have value. This is the basis on which human rights and equality is built upon. This is the reason we protect even the homeless. Euthanasia disregards this intrinsic value and places more importance on life as a means of fulfilling preferences. Thus, can we really deem an act which ignores the intrinsic value of life as of a human to be ethical? In addition, to argue the ethics of euthanasia, we must discuss the practicality of it. Euthanasia ignores the sacred relationship of patient and physician, where one of them is there to seek healing and the other to offer healing sometimes, but comfort always. In euthanasia, instead of being a source of solace, a physician becomes an instrument that is complicit in an act of suicide. Would a doctor be less likely to strive for wholesome treatment when there's an easier way out? Might a patient not bother to volunteer important information to the doctor since he thinks, after all, I'm going to die soon? Or will the doctor decide that since this chap has given up hope, there's no use trying to comfort him anymore? Not to mention the mental toll it will take on doctors facing this ethical conundrum. So this leads me to my last point. Where will this road lead? Euthanasia cannot be ethical. The practical implications infringe on the right of other individuals. Euthanasia promotes the idea that some lives are more valuable than others at the expense of the vulnerable. Societal pressure will undoubtedly influence decisions made by vulnerable patients pressured into ending it all when society deems them unworthy. And thus, would a patient actually have true autonomy in making a decision? It promotes the idea that death is cheap by increasing its accessibility. It exacerbates the problem where the quality of treatment is dependent on your value to society. This will undoubtedly permeate through the social consciousness, absolving communities and governments of the responsibility of looking out for each other, especially the marginalized. In conclusion, there is no value in promoting the idea that euthanasia is ethical due to the fact that it relieves suffering. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to request Dr. Rahajo to please ask a question.
Oh, sorry. still. Yeah. I think your presentation is very good, but I'm still wondering whether the euthanasia can be implemented and can be accepted by the people or by the country all over the world. What do you think about that? Because I think it's still debatable.
I think one of the reasons that euthanasia still faces a lot of opposition is due to the fact that there's a lot of complications surrounding the logistical implications of euthanasia. There's a lot of real-world consequences once you take euthanasia into consideration. For example, the economic complications you might have as people will live lives recklessly if they deem there's an easy way out. So there's definitely economic implications in that sense. There's also the societal consciousness, which we talked about earlier, where we have to take into consideration how society will perceive the act of euthanasia or how accessible euthanasia is. So regulation is extremely important, and this I do not think will be achievable in the with proper unless with full legislation. So it would be extremely difficult challenge to implement it. So yeah, I'll say.
Okay, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Team Code Blue.
Next up, we have our third team for today, Team Giants of G. The speaker for the motion from the Team Giants of G. You may please unmute yourself and begin your speech.
Hello, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining across the globe. Today I will be speaking for euthanasia, and I would like to introduce you with this most famous case from Britain about Dr. Cox and Lillian Boyce. Now, Dr. Cox was a consultant rheumatologist, and Mrs. Boyce was his patient with advanced rheumatoid arthritis. She was suffering from abscesses and septicemia, and without any treatment for her, she was in her end stages. Now, imagine yourself in her place as Mrs. Boyce. What would you want to be done? Would you like your life to be prolonged pointlessly, or would you like to have control over your last moments, to be afforded the access to emotional and spiritual support, and to be afforded the dignity and privacy in your last moments? What I feel and euthanasia can do is that it can provide us with something called a good death and allow us to have control over our last moments and decide how and when and what to do during our last moments of our life, and to decide to spend it with our family and friends. And this brings us to the point of autonomy. I think many people talked about this also, and autonomy in a person is one of the most important medical ethic pillars, and autonomy takes precedence in a competent patient. So why don't we offer the option of euthanasia to a patient when they are allowed to be able to rationally think and take control over their last moments? And this also brings us to this point called absence of a moral duty to live. So what happens if we refuse a patient's request to euthanasia? The person is compelled to live a life they don't want. Aren't we doing harm to the patient against his or her wishes and giving them a life without power? I would also like to introduce a concept called moral plurality. Now, many people think that autonomy shouldn't extend to life or death decisions. Now, this has been repeatedly argued from medicine to philosophy to religion over and over the ages. Simply, we don't know the answer. So we have different answers for this. So why don't respect everyone's wishes and allow everyone to practice their own concept? This is called moral pluralism. Therefore, I would like to end my points with this excerpt from a paper which describes moral pluralism. No one is obliged to request euthanasia, but on the other hand, no one should be denied the freedom to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your views. I'd like to invite Mr. Swan Kumar to ask a question to the speaker.
Hello, sir. I'm not able
So
to
please
hear.
unmute yourself.
Okay. So you have just said that our society should respect will of the people in matter of life and death.
Yes.
So how do you think your arguments don't support planned suicide? And second part, and if we go by your arguments, then don't you think that as a society which is not matured enough, there will be unscrupulous people who will take advantage of this, or there will be people individually who will attempt to have a planned suicide?
Yes, sir. I understand your question, sir. I feel like euthanasia, if we are going to allow it legally, it should be strictly controlled and regulated, and we should have several restrictions on it to provide euthanasia for the right people. And so euthanasia is something different from suicide. Why? Because in euthanasia, either the patient is or person is in prolonged suffering, and the natural course of their life is eventually will lead to death. And this is just prolonging their suffering. So that is something we should consider. When we consider suicide or planned suicide, that is not the case. There are different various factors that affect suicide, but that is something different from euthanasia, I feel so.
And the second part, don't you think an immature society will try to take advantage of euthanasia?
Yes, sir. That is possibly happen, but we can prevent it by having those restrictions, having maybe a legal framework.
Legal framework, a strong legal framework.
Yes.
Okay,
And
yes,
committees that
fine, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Next, I'll invite the speaker speaking against the motion from the team Giants of G.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Can we start, please? Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of euthanasia, many believe, is a philosophical issue, but it's an issue with great moral and practical ethical issues. One of the greatest issues which come up with regards to euthanasia is the concept of the slippery slope of euthanasia. The definition of euthanasia, it believes that euthanasia is there not merely to cause death, but to prevent unsufferable pain. Yet what we have seen throughout history and in countries such as Belgium, in which this system has been going on, is that diseases, not only terminally ill diseases, but conditions such as mental illnesses, such as PTSD and chronic depression, have also been given the opportunity to undergo euthanasia. Though I understand that these conditions are mentally agonizing, there is an issue of prognosis. But because of the foot in the door principle and the slippery slope created by euthanasia and its practical issues, mental illnesses and issues with good prognosis are also getting euthanasia. In Belgium, in 2019, a proposal was made to let people above the age of 75 who are tired of living to die. And that is not the concept of euthanasia, but due to the slippery slope of euthanasia has come up. A big issue of euthanasia is its economical benefit. Many believe its beneficence is good, but no. Now, because euthanasia is cheaper than palliative care and investing in research, people are moving more towards euthanasia rather than moving towards good care and moving towards research, which will give good solutions. Thus, in the 1700s, if we had euthanasia, patients who had uncurable diseases those days, such as tuberculosis and leprosy, would have died, and we would not have had a cure for tuberculosis and leprosy. Another big issue in the world of geriatrics is elderly abuse, which might come up with regards to euthanasia. Because euthanasia is used by elderlies with chronic diseases. They might come up with a social obligation to die rather than be a burden on their family, thus becoming honorary deaths. This is not something that we want to see in this world. A big argument for euthanasia is autonomy. But if you look at the process, the legal process and the bureaucratic process which goes in for a person to commit euthanasia in Belgium, you will see that true autonomy in the face of that of freedom of speech is not guaranteed because of the bureaucracy. And as doctors, we must ask ourselves the question whether we will stand by the Hippocratic oath of do no harm or go with the James Bond theory of license to kill. And based on these points, I move to object to this statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those words. I'd like to call upon Mr. Kumar again to ask the speaker a question.
So you have a motion against mercy killing euthanasia, but in countries which have not so better medical infrastructure, or they are not so financially strong to support the society, why shouldn't euthanasia be permitted?
That is a very good question, sir. One of the biggest issues of euthanasia is that it's economically cheap. So what we should be striving in the global community and in those countries is to improve their healthcare facilities, their palliative care. If euthanasia is implemented on like an alternative to good medical care, then we will find that during the constraints of the economies of scale, people will be pushing people towards euthanasia rather than the big commitment that goes along with getting the proper medical care. And I think that causes what we call a slippery slope, which will snowball into a big issue. And I think, sir, there's a huge legal issue, because in those countries, if the healthcare framework does not allow, then considering the socioeconomic constraints, then legally, many people might force others. Illegally, many people may force others to euthanasia, which may be accepted because of the economic constraint. So economic constraint is in itself a disadvantage, sir. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have our fourth team for today, Team U40. Speaker for the motion from the Team U40. You may please unmute yourself and begin your speech.
Okay. Okay, let's start it. Good afternoon, all judges, and good afternoon, all participants. Today, I wanna present my argument about euthanasia. Euthanasia refers to the deliberating ending life, usually to relieve suffering. Doctors sometimes perform euthanasia when it's requested by people who have a terminal illness and are in a lot of pain. It is a complex process and influenced with many factors: local laws, someone's physical and mental health, and their personal beliefs and wishes all play a role. If someone makes a consequence decisions to seek help with ending their life, it's considered voluntary euthanasia. The person must give their full consent and demonstrate that they will fully understand what will happen. In someone's case, the courts will need to decide the labeling the case an exceptional one if they choose to do so, in case the patient is not in a position to communicate. Also, even conscious patients make anticipate their condition in currently. Most patients are not able to judge the extent to their prophetic suffering once they are diagnosed with a medical condition. In such case, the living will make it difficult to lay down. But the point is, I think the most important thing about euthanasia is letting someone choose their life is a good thing if they cannot be survived. Just it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to request Dr. Arai to ask a question.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate the presentation. So actually, the technology of palliative care, pain relieving is improving a lot. So still, do you think you need euthanasia is still important for those patients suffering from pain or other conditions? Thank you.
Okay, I think letting someone to choose their life is a good thing. Is if someone to choose euthanasia to ending their life is a good thing, because someone choose to choose the best for themselves, or maybe if they want to ending their life is a choice by the someone's. Just it. Thank you.
But the patient decision might be not sure because of their consciousness is not clear enough, or some patient might have delirium. So how can we make sure that the patient has the, their wish is for euthanasia?
Sorry, can you repeat again, sir?
So some patient might have delirium, or their decision may not be correct due to too much pain or pressure from environment. So how can you make sure the patient wish for euthanasia?
Sorry, I can understand what the meaning.
So how can you make sure the patient wish for euthanasia if in the presence of a severe pain or pressure from environment?
Oh yeah, I think euthanasia is the best way to make someone's freedom about the pain, and the someone's choose their life is the way is choose euthanasia to make free about the pain and illness if someone choose to endings their lives. Maybe is chosen by the someone's if want to endings their life to choose euthanasia. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite the speaker speaking against the motion.
Okay, I'm ready. Can we start?
Please do, please do.
Humans cannot predict death, and it occurs naturally, and no one knows when it will occur. Euthanasia is the action carried out with a purpose to terminate the life of a person. The ethical dilemmas of voluntary euthanasia, from the points of virtue, consigliarity, and deontology, basic the refuse accused of euthanasia. If the doctor gave up and ensured medically incurable disease and it still took a hard course if the hook should be treated, then extra care should be cultivated. Then the most possible thing that terminate the process of treatment and medical mission in hospital. Prefer to find a way to relieve person's suffering by taking all possible action to provide the best comfort possible for a suffering person instead of euthanasia. Health problems and disability are relatively high for elderly, and euthanasia is the choice to end someone's life. This factor will affect the elderly is carrying out activity of daily living and will also result in joint and muscle stiffness. Treatment passive role, range of motion, and treatment body vibration for range of motion non-independent elderly may and many more ways to prevent that. And the other prevent way is one, patient suffering pain, health promotion and for patient and family, palliative care, give a support, empathy, and reduce the pain, treatment like medicine, physiotherapy, and psychological care and more attention. And some countries to take care about this problem or issue because it's not about quality of life. She always take care about the quality of life, nature's, religion aspect, law and rule, value of life. So euthanasia is just feasible in some country. Yet euthanasia enters a dimension because the concern of human life in relation of God. Limitation of rule of law, especially in criminal law sector, will not become a hindrance in taking action against people who help a dying patient and his life. The article of the criminal code in some country has been enough to prove the desire to protect the most fundamental human rights, namely the right to life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to request Dr. Rai to ask a question.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the first part of your presentation. The voice was not so clear enough. But the level of palliative care is different from each country. So do you think it's possible to promote euthanasia in every country where the level of palliative care is different?
Okay, thank you for the question. It's a good question for me because I want to share my own experience. I am one of nurse at palliative care's host, elderly house, and I always every day to working and to take palliative care for all the elderly people right here. And I think it's maybe it's a different one for each country to maintain a palliative care for elderly. But when we try, because the main things is do a preventive way. So we're not looking for euthanasia first, but we must take care about a preventive way. From the patient, it's end of their life, but we may to patient to give a palliative care. So we give many things. It's palliative care is many things about the support, about more attention for the elderly, empathy, and medis. Like I have already do a research about treatment body vibration and room passive for the elderly, and it makes a good effect for them because it reduces pain. Like a range of motion of them is have a trouble. We can do something preventive way, like I say before. So I think maybe the other country can do like that. It's not about it's not about the euthanasia, but we can do many things, palliative care, and especially for health promotion for the family and give us big support for the patient. So maybe they don't think to do euthanasia because life is very worth it. Life is from God, so we must take care of our life. I think like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Eupholi. Thank you, Dr. Rai. Are the members of Team Golden Oldies here?
Hi, yes, we're here. Can someone confirm that I am audible?
Yes,
Yes,
you're
you are.
audible.
Sure, let me know when I can start.
You may start.
Death is the opposite of life, but the act of dying is a crucial part of living. Sorry? Do you want me to restart?
Yes, I guess we can restart.
I'm sorry, could I restart? I was interrupted
Yes.
in the middle.
Yes, definitely, you can. You can start now.
Is this thing working? Oh. Thank you.
Golden Oldie is the speaker for the motion.
death is the opposite of life, but the act of dying itself is a crucial part of living. A very good day to everyone here. I am here to convince you that euthanasia is not. At the outset, let me point out that this is by no means a novel concept we're debating here today. Euthanasia has existed in many forms, in many cultures through the millennia. The ancient Greeks used hemlock to hasten the arrival of death, while closer to home exists the Hindu practice of prayopaveshana, by which a terminally ill patient with no responsibilities or desire in life would ritually fast to death. Medical science has certainly come a long way since then, but immortality still lies well beyond our grasp. At the end, much better to be able to pass painlessly, with dignity, with all of our affairs in order and surrounded by our loved ones. Given this, I propose that euthanasia be seen as a standard component of palliative, more than stringent enough to prevent this from occurring. Soundness of mind is easy enough to establish. And more importantly, as this practice becomes widespread, so will the concept of living with a mercenary point of view. Euthanasia would certainly free up medical resources currently being utilized by patients with no hope of recovery, no quality of life, and no will to live. The right to life should, I believe, be superseded by the right to choose. If I consider my life lived to its fullest, if I do not wish to carry on existing the way that I am, and if my, ladies and gentlemen, is what we fear really death itself? Or is it the slow decline that inevitably precedes it? The pain, the gradual loss of self. To conclude, I'd like to leave you with this. Funerals and remembrances, those are for the living. But the way we choose to die, I firmly believe.
We realized there were some network issues. So I would like to ask the judges, should we ask her to speak again? Or were they able to listen to what she said?
Well, I think she should repeat once again because most of the part was not audible.
Okay. And I'd like to suggest maybe she tries it without her video and it might make the audio work better.
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, so we'll be starting the timer once again.
Before we begin, I've switched off my video. Is it better now? Am I audible?
Yeah,
yes.
you're better audible.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So speaker for the motion, team Golden Oldies. You may start.
Thank you. Death is the opposite of life, but the very act of dying is a crucial part of living. A very good day to everyone. I'm here to convince you that euthanasia is not only ethical, but essential. At the very outset, let me point out that this is by no means a novel concept we're debating here today. Euthanasia has existed in many forms, in many cultures over the millennia. The ancient Greeks used hemlock to hasten death. While closer to home exists the Hindu practice of prayopavationam, by which a terminally ill patient with no responsibilities or desire in life would ritually fast to death. Now, medical science has clearly come a long way since then, but immortality still lies well beyond our grasp. At the end of the day, death is still inevitable. We all know that. So if given the choice, wouldn't it be so much better to be able to pass painlessly, with dignity, with all of our affairs in order and surrounded by our loved ones? Given this, I propose that euthanasia be seen as a standard component of palliative healthcare. Coming to the logistics of the situation, my opponents may argue that families could begin to pressure vulnerable members into accepting euthanasia, perhaps against their wishes or before their time. But once legalized, the regulations surrounding it would be more than stringent enough to prevent this. Soundness of mind is easy enough to establish, and more importantly, as this practice becomes widespread, so would the concept of living wills. A person could specify years or even decades in advance the explicit conditions under which they would like to be put out of their pain. From a more mercenary point of view, euthanasia would certainly free up medical resources currently being utilized by patients with no hope of recovery, no quality of life, and no will to live. The right to life should, I believe, be superseded by the right to choose. If I consider my life lived to its fullest, if I do not wish to carry on existing the way that I am, and if my family and I are ready to let go, then why am I being denied this right? I firmly believe that in the years to come, those opposing euthanasia today would come to be seen as almost barbaric. Through their inaction, deliberately prolonging a person's suffering against their explicit wishes. If removed from a medical setting, this could almost be the premise of a horror movie. Ladies and gentlemen, is what we fear really death itself? Or is it the slow, gradual loss of self, the sword of Damocles dangling over our heads, never knowing when it may fall? That is what truly terrifies us. And that is what we today have the power to ease. To conclude, I'd like to leave you with this. Funerals and remembrances, those are for the living. But the way we choose to die, I firmly believe, should be in our own hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Golden Oldies. I would like to request Dr. Tan Guo Jeng to ask a question to the speaker.
Sorry, the connection wasn't so good. Okay, thank you so much, Anaya, for your presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. So I'd like to ask, okay, so let's say you have managed to persuade the country to adopt euthanasia. So how do you plan to implement this program of euthanasia in your country? And
thank you for your question, sir. So to begin with, we have countries where there's passive euthanasia already allowed, such as mine, and we have countries where active euthanasia is also permitted. The scope of this debate is euthanasia in general, so we would look to both these countries that have successfully implemented this for guidelines. To begin with, we would have stringent rules as to the conditions that are even eligible for this in the first place. They would have to be by their very nature incurable, and one that causes daily suffering and pain to the persons involved. The patient should already be receiving the very best of palliative care that we can possibly provide in the country, given the circumstances. And the patient should also be made fully aware of all treatment options open to them, including palliative and experimental therapy. We need to make sure through a psychological screening that the patient is not suffering, clouding their judgment. We have to exclude any sort of psychological or psychiatric impairment, and we have to make sure that the patient is making this decision to the best of their ability with a completely clear and unclouded mind, with all of their options intact. In cases where the patient is vegetative or unable to respond, sir, we would look to see if they have either a living will made in advance of this illness, or if they have previously assigned someone to be their power of attorney or the next friend, in which they would also be empowered to make this decision. And given all of those criteria are met, sir, there would be a minimum of a medical board that the patient's individual case would have to pass, before which they are even granted the option of euthanasia.
Thank you very much, Anaya. I like the one about experimental treatment. Because I just comment that the choice is very important, but we are not allowed to choose experimental treatments, but we are, however, allowed to choose staff. So just a comment, but thank you very much. That's very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Dr. Tan. May I now request the speaker against the motion from Team Golden Oldies to unmute and start speaking.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Sure, okay. I'll start.
There seems to be an echo. There's an echo.
Advait, can you just mic check again, because it seems to be a big echo. Advait, can you hear us? Hello, Advait?
Abhilasha, can you start the timer?
Advait, can you hear?
Yes. Is the speaker ready?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you
Okay.
are. Okay.
Yeah, can you start the countdown?
Yes, we'll be starting it now.
Few ideas in medicine and society have inspired as much moral and ethical dilemmas as euthanasia has. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I feel immensely privileged to represent the opposition bench and help clear the proposition's emotionally charged rhetoric by focusing on facts. Let's start objectively by comparing euthanasia with a principally similar but much less charged policy. Do not resuscitate orders. Even in an ideal scenario with consenting patients, competent doctors, and watertight guidelines, a US study showed that DNR orders are twice as likely to be placed on African Americans, chronic alcoholics, non-English speakers,
The speaker is not audible, I think.
Maybe we can turn his video off too.
Yes, please. Yes.
Seems like it's frozen now.
Has he left the meeting?
Am I audible, ma'am? So sorry, we have issues on this side.
Yeah, you're audible. Please don't switch on your video.
Sure, ma'am, I'll do that. Please start the timer. I'll just go once again.
Please start the timer, Mariam.
Few ideas in medicine and society have inspired as much moral and ethical dilemmas as euthanasia has. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Represent the opposition bench and help clear the proposition's emotionally charged rhetoric by focusing on the facts. Now let's start objectively by comparing euthanasia with a principally similar but not as charged policy. Do not resuscitate orders. Even in an ideal scenario with consenting patients, competent doctors, and watertight guidelines, a US study showed that DNR orders are twice as likely to be placed on African Americans, non-English speakers, chronic alcoholics, and HIV patients, showing that no matter how perfect on paper the guidelines are, the doctors implementing them are human and hence have stereotypes about who's worth saving. The proposition's core point is about euthanasia being in the patient's best interest. But the problem with that is that, like DNR orders, euthanasia isn't just a differential diagnosis we are testing. It's irreversible. Imagine a scenario where a terminally ill patient is depressed, but I have seen AIDS patients I see death as the only liberation. It's close and powerful love and support. And the crushing weight of being a burden, financially or
I am sorry, but I'm not able to hear the speaker. He's not audible. I think we should repeat again. Okay.
Interesting where are Nazis?
The speaker from Golden Oldies, I would like to request you to record an audio.
MBA governed medical industry.
Golden Oldies, we can't hear you. Your voice is breaking. So we think you can send in an audio and we can play it for everyone because we can't hear you. Have we lost him again?
Hello. Yeah, I'm just trying from my teammates. Yeah, I'm just trying from my teammates' laptop.
Okay.
Can I send you a recorded audio if that's not a problem?
Please send in a recorded audio.
Sure. I'll do that as soon as possible. Yes. Okay. If you could just wait for 3 to 4 minutes, I'll send you an audio.
Okay. Yes, in the meantime, we can have feedback from some of the judges or any questions or any comments you might have. The speaker will send in the audio in 3 to 4 minutes.
The judges may use the time to ask questions to one of the other teams also if they would like to, or we could have a feedback on the performance or the thoughts by the judges on the participants and the debate process.
I'd just like to say that overall it's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. I think everyone's done a great job. So thank you. It obviously have put a lot of work into it.
Since Adve would be recording his presentation, then I think I might colleague can just record they won't be sending the thing. But if he wants so just a question to the people who are opposed to euthanasia as a choice. How would the country ban euthanasia, but yet they illegally maybe they'll fly to Switzerland? How how do they plan to regulate this? Yeah. How do people who are the team that is opposed to euthanasia, how do they plan to regulate it, since people will fly to other countries to get it done, or even cross the different provinces to get it done?
Is it all right if I answer?
Yes.
I'm Raveen I'm from Geriatric, Giants of G. That's a good question, sir. One of the biggest issues we see with euthanasia is something known as euthanasia tourism. And if euthanasia is regulated in one country, we see that other people are flying to other countries in order to get euthanasia. So it is very important that in our country, if we are to maintain euthanasia, the ethics of euthanasia in a global community, it's very important to regulate it. And there is a bit of a conflict here between the autonomy of an individual and the legal framework of a country. And I believe that if the legal framework of a country does not allow for euthanasia, as in the case of similar incidents such as abortions, organ transplant, the same regulations and same kind of regulations can be used to prevent euthanasia tourism. And that is a very good question, because the legal and bureaucratic framework which will be needed to regulate something like that is going to be quite big. So that is a very good question, sir. And I believe that certain principles that we use with regards to, in certain countries, with regard to abortion, with regards to organ transplant and organ donorship, and tourism with regards to that, and crossing borders, can be used in those instances. But I do realize, looking at this legal framework and the bureaucratic cost it's going to take, that it is going to be something that's going to be difficult to regulate, and it's necessary for countries to have international correspondence with regards to managing this sort of issue.
ये बताओ, जब साउथ से आते थे पहले ये स्टेशन
Okay, so we have received the audio from the speaker against the motion, Team 5, Golden Oldies. We will be starting the timer and playing the audio for everyone. All right. Ria, can we have the audio?
Just a sec. So I'll be playing it right now. I'll be playing it on my phone, on the laptop, speaker of the laptop.
In society have inspired as much moral and ethical dilemmas as euthanasia has.
Is it audible? Yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I feel immensely privileged to represent the opposition bench and help clear the proposition's emotionally charged rhetoric by focusing on the facts. Let's start objectively by comparing euthanasia with a principally similar but not as charged policy: do not resuscitate orders. Even in an ideal scenario with consenting patients, competent doctors, and watertight guidelines, a US study showed that DNR orders are twice as likely to be placed on African Americans, non-English speakers, chronic alcoholics, and HIV patients, showing that no matter how perfect on paper the guidelines are, the doctors implementing them are human, and hence have stereotypes about who's worth saving and who's not. Now, the proposition's core point is about euthanasia being in the patient's best interest. But the problem with that is, like DNR orders, euthanasia isn't just a differential diagnosis we're testing. It's irreversible. Imagine a scenario where a terminally ill patient is depressed, but her demand for euthanasia is actually a cry for help. In fact, let me quote a geriatric specialist from the Canadian Senate Committee on Euthanasia and Assisted Suicide. Quote, I have seen AIDS patients being completely abandoned by their parents, sisters, lovers, and in a state of total isolation, cut off from every sense of life and affection, see death as the only liberation, when in reality, all they want is close and powerful love and support. Unquote. Yes, the pressure of feeling unwanted, the crushing weight of being a burden, financially or otherwise. These are deep-seated issues, complex issues that instead of meaningfully and ethically addressing, euthanasia just sweeps under the carpet and gives a final solution to. Speaking of final solutions, it's worth noting that the Nazis initially sugar-coated, or in this case, cyanide-coated, their genocide as voluntary euthanasia for the benefit of the patient. Obviously, we aren't all Nazis, but in today's privatized, corporation-dictated, MBA-governed medical industry, doctors' opinions are strongly influenced by cost. And with respect to euthanasia, that's a problem. A 1998 study found that cost-conscious doctors are significantly more likely to write lethal prescriptions for terminally ill patients. Speaking about costs, ladies and gentlemen, the underlying theme of today's debate revolves around the cost of a human life for a healthy person versus a disabled person versus a person on a deathbed. But surprisingly, especially such doctors, we haven't engaged much about another theme, the sanctity of human life. You see, as able-bodied people, we look at things from our perspective, seeing life with disability as a disaster, filled with suffering and frustration. Legalizing, or as in this motion, even ethically greenlighting euthanasia legitimizes this bias, sending the message that it's better to be dead than sick or disabled, that some lives just aren't worth living. And I've explained how this not just puts the sick at a higher risk, but most importantly, downgrades their status as human beings while they're still alive. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is ethically and morally outrageous to the opposition bench, and hence I'm very proud to oppose. Thank you.
I hope it was audible.
Thank you. So this was our last speaker for today. I would like to request Dr. Tan to ask a question to the speaker.
I think it's the same question that I asked just now. So in case you wanted to record an answer. So now that you have persuaded the country, the parliament has passed a law limiting or banning euthanasia altogether. So you are selected onto the committee to draft the regulations. What are the regulations you will put on?
Thank you for your question. So just clarifying, you are asking what kind of if any country is banning,
what kind of regulations would you impose? So now you have persuaded the parliament. So parliament is banning euthanasia. So what do you plan to put in? What are the guidelines that you will put in to make sure that this?
Absolutely. So thank you for the question. So the answer to that question, I honestly believe, lies in just better palliative care with much more funding, with much more technology involved, with a lot more focus that we give around the world to primary care is extremely less. And I think that what this motion tries to solve is giving a short-term solution to that. So to answer your question, sir, stronger palliative care, I would try to increase the funding, or try to ask the countries to increase the funding in palliative care to people who are stigmatized in society, especially people like who belong to an ethnic minority, people who are chronic alcoholics, who are stigmatized in society, HIV patients. It's very important that the lack of family, the lack of connections that they have, do not play an outcome on their treatment, do not have a role to play in their treatment outcomes. So giving them a nice, stable, loving place to stay in, these are the basic places we would start at, sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you so much, sir. Apologies once again for the delay. So sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Tan, for the question, and thank you, Team Golden Oldies, for that presentation and your answers. I would like to request Dr. Meyer, Dr. Norwood, and Dr. Nishki if they have any questions for any of the teams.
This is Dr. Norwood. I'd love to, I don't know if I can address it to all the teams because I don't know if we have time, but I'm very interested in the concept of social pressure and how powerful or not that is. So my question would be something like, for your argument, either pro or against euthanasia, would you say social pressure is a large impact, and why?
I've got the same situation as has just been mentioned by Francis. I have a general question. It would be a question I would ask all of them, but I don't know whether this time constraint would allow it. The question I would ask, though, what is their reaction to the current debate that's going on about tired of life? That is, people who have non-medical reasons for deciding that they want to electively end their lives, and how that should be and how it could be accommodated if one was to go down this path.
The teams can raise their hands if they want to answer.
If it's okay with the judges, I'd like to take a shot at answering these questions.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Wait, please. I would request the participants to raise their hands if they want to answer. So we have two raised hands, and Raveen can take one question. And Ananya can take one question.
I'm sorry, I
Since
didn't hear the
Raveen
last part. All right. Sure. Can you hear me now?
Since you were the first to raise your hand, you may choose which question.
I will answer the second question posed by our esteemed panelist with regards to the very interesting concept of tired of life. Now, the proposal of allowing euthanasia for elderly people above the age of 75 was proposed in the Belgian Parliament on the basis of what we call tired of life. And it goes against the initial principle of euthanasia, which is ending suffering, which at that time was defined as something which could be measured. So at this time, it is a good example of what we call a foot in the door policy. The euthanasia program began with helping people with chronic illnesses, in which the prognosis was known and in which the prognosis was known to be bad. But now it has lived to a slippery slope in which people who are tired of life and per se not in the insufferable pain which was found in the initial definition are too requesting euthanasia. And this also harbors a bit on the argument, on the question asked by the madam who asked the first question about social pressure. So I believe if, and as we are considering the geriatric community, if a gentleman or a lady in her 75 years of age has the opportunity to have euthanasia, if she is tired of life, she might face social pressure from her families in certain circumstances to take up euthanasia. And as the criterion there is not as sharply defined as a prognostic characteristic in a certain disease, this is leading to a slippery slope with a greater incline. So that is what I believe. And thank you for the question.
Thank you for that answer. The second hand was raised by Ananya. So can we have you here?
Hi, which question am I supposed to be answering? Do I get to choose, or is it going to be assigned?
You may pick the first one since you took the second, and if
you
want to answer both, you can answer both.
Yes, and I believe if I'm interpreting the question correctly, it was about how we remove the impact of social pressures and societal expectations from
influencing a person's decision on whether or not to euthanize themselves or not. Now, I believe that, first of all, there's two aspects to this. If a person has lived their entire life in accordance with a certain culture or religion's expectations and code, I believe that they should have the ability to choose to die by that code as well. But given this aside, what I believe would completely, or at least to a large degree, mitigate this issue is the simple addition of a very thorough psychological screening before a person even becomes eligible to apply for euthanasia. The absolute cure to this issue would, of course, be eliminating the social pressure where the sick and the elderly are seen as burdens in society. But that, honestly, I feel is beyond the scope of the medical community. So what we can do is make sure that the person is absolutely making the decision of their own free will. This is within our hands to some degree to ensure. And unfortunately, while it might not improve their quality of life, if we decide that they are being forced into it and we say that they are not eligible for euthanasia, we might not be able to improve their quality of life, but we definitely will not end their life without their permission.
Thank you so much, Ananya. And thank you, judges, for those questions. All right, now I would like to request the judges to send in their scores to the organizing committee so that we can start compiling the results. And I would like to thank all the participants for this interesting exchange of ideas and the judges for taking out their time and enriching this discussion with their intriguing questions. Thank you, everyone. So meanwhile, the results are getting ready. We are fortunate to have some very interesting guest speakers here with us today. I would like to invite Dr. Justine Irving from IAGG, who's the student president of the Student Council of IAGG, to speak a few words.
Hello, I don't know if that's a very lovely introduction. I don't know if I have a particularly interesting speech to give you, but I'm certainly here to introduce myself and to congratulate these students who have most certainly put a lot of work into their debates today, and well done coping with the technical issues that unfortunately are associated with this kind of platform. You did very well to navigate around that. So my name is Justine, and I'm the current president of the IAGG Council of Student Organisations, and our role is primarily to support students and sections of student groups around the world through information sharing, networking, and we also play a part in supporting some countries or regions around the world to develop their own student sections or groups. A major part of our role is to initiate events and create opportunities for students to network at the regional and world congresses. Our next major event, I guess, is hopefully in next year, in 2022, and that's the 22nd IAGG World Congress in Argentina. And at that event, we are planning, if it all goes ahead, we'll have information sessions for students and early career researchers. We'll have social events, and we also provide a small number of travel bursaries to support attendance at the World Congress. So we are very much behind the scenes. We're a small group, but we play an important role in representing, I guess, the interests of students and early career researchers with the broader IAGG within that context. But so there's not much of an interesting speech, but I really appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself and the IAGG Student Council of Student Organisations to the participants of today's debate.
Thank you, Dr. Irving. It was great hearing from you. We also have here with us Dr. Prasad Matthews, who is the president of Indian Academy of Geriatrics and is a professor at Christian Medical College, Vellore. I would like to invite Dr. Prasad Matthews to say a few words. Sir, are you here with us? Well, it turns out that Sir has some trouble joining in with the connection. So
while Sir joins us, I'd like to invite Dr. Arvind Mathur, who's the editor of the Journal of the Indian Academy of Geriatrics, director and managing trustee, Asian Center for Medical Education, Research and Innovation, and ex-principal and controller, professor of medicine, Dr. SN Medical College, Jodhpur, to speak a few words.
Thank
Dr.
you very
Mathur.
much. Yeah. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay. So at the outset, I would congratulate the student chapter of Indian Academy of Geriatrics for having conducted such an excellent event of international debate. This shows their keen interest and hard work which they have been putting in to have these activities, all these from the day of their inception as a student chapter. Indian Academy of Geriatrics has been involved in introducing this geriatrics to the Indian medical field for last more than 15, 20 years. And for last 16 years, we have been bringing out a journal, that is the Journal of Indian Academy of Geriatrics. Along with this, the annual conferences are being held and with the introduction of a student chapter, we have achieved one important goal of introducing this subject to the undergraduate students. I'll first like to say that it was a feast to listen to the impressive, forceful, and thought-provoking debate from enthusiastic participants. My congratulations to them. And this has given a good platform for interaction for them. And this gives an opportunity for students to learn from each other and develop cross-national connections and also learn mutually. The student chapter of Indian Academy of Geriatrics has achieved this goal of introducing geriatrics to the undergraduate students. Since with the population aging, most of the healthcare workers, professionals are going to encounter older people in their practice. And that's why whichever field those students take in their career, they need to learn about the principles of geriatric medicine. And student chapter is also playing a major role in that particular part. And by creating awareness and interest amongst the students, we are seeing more and more students participating in these activities. I like to tell that the Journal of Indian Academy of Geriatrics is open for their contribution. Even the participants who have presented today, if they want to give up their write-ups for this, we have a special student corner for where we could publish these deliberations also. And I hope that student chapter of Indian Academy of Geriatrics will continue with all these activities. And our connection with IAGG has been very important, with the IAG being a part of IAGG also. So with your connection with the Student Council of IAGG, I hope to see more and more activities. Thank you very much. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Dr. Prasad Matthews has joined us. Dr. Prasad Matthews, the president of Indian Academy of Geriatrics and a professor at Christian Medical College, Vellore. Dr. Matthews, can we have you here to speak a few words?
Good afternoon to all. I'm delighted to be here at this debate, and I'm happy to see so many senior participants, Dr. Tribodi and Dr. Nishki, and others. The topic is controversial and is sure to stir up a lot of debate. So I expect a vigorous debate. On behalf of IAG, I'd like to thank Ashish, Kamakshi, and the other student organizers for organizing this debate. I guess in the Indian scene, it's still a controversial topic, but I'm sure there's nothing we cannot debate and look at the good and bad sides about any topic. So again, thanks to Ashish and team, the international speakers, and all the participants. And I'm sure we'll have a very good debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Next, I would like to call Riya Vasan, the National Secretary of Student Chapter of Indian Academy of Geriatrics, Student Chapter, to say a few words about this organization.
Very good afternoon to all the respected judges and the participants who have joined us and the faculty. It's an honor to be here today. Organizing this event has been a very great learning opportunity for all the organizers, and I'm sure for the participants as well. So this student chapter of the Indian Academy of Geriatrics was started under the faculty advisors from the Indian Academy of Geriatrics in 2019. And we started with a small group of undergraduate medical students of 6 students. And now we are proud to have more than 450 students from all over India. We have been very active in organizing various academic and non-academic events which promote geriatric interests among the undergraduate students. We have had great help and support from the national faculty as well as the international faculty. This debate has been one of the first events where we have had the opportunity to interact with the international medical students as well. And I hope that we continue to do so. And again, I would like to thank you again for joining us this afternoon. And it's been great to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Riya. So we are drawing closer to the moment when we'll know which team is going home with a prize of $1,000 and the title of being the winning team of Discourse International Debate Competition. Meanwhile, before we announce the results, I would like to ask if the judges here would like to share any impressions, feedbacks, comments, their thoughts on the entire session we had today. Anything that they'd like to share.
Yes, may I please?
Yes, sir, definitely.
I think this is a very good step because euthanasia as such is more of a social and legal subject in countries where society is not matured or it is a developing country. And as doctors, the participants should realize that they have to not only act in best of the patients in the best of their benefit, but they have to be bound by all the social and legal issues also. So I think this will give them a better view of the situation. So I congratulate everybody, the organizers and the participants, and thank you all judges for joining here. Thank you so much.
I would also like to add that it's been a fantastic event, and I'm amazed at how well you've pulled it all together. It's been fabulous. Thank you so much to all the participants. As mentioned in my introduction, I'm the IAGG Council of Student Organisation representative for the Asia-Oceania region, and there'll be a regional congress in Yokohama in Japan in 2023 in June. And it would be wonderful if we could extend this debate to an event perhaps at that Congress. That would be a great way of continuing the work as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for mentioning about IGG 2023 in Yokohama, Claudia. Thank you very much. I'm happy to include this kind of program in this 2020. Thank you.
Excuse me. May I say something?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I just want to appreciate this debate that organized by the student, and thank you so much for the support of IAGG and also the CAP. I'm proud of you all, students. You are very, very, in my opinion, you are such amazing student. This is the first time for me to involve and to join this kind of international debate like this. And to me, this is the one that I learned a lot from all of you. Congratulations to the committee, and thank you to Dr. Aziz and all the team. And I just want to express that I'm happy because here I also, I think I meet Francis, right, from Belgium. Hi, Francis, and also Dr. Matun. Long time no see, I think. And the one that I recommend that about the euthanasia, it is actually debatable, but about the policy, it depends on the situation and also the condition and also the value of each country. In my opinion, ending life is the choice, but I think the point is how to avoid the over treatment. So one day I learned from Dr. Aziz and the team in India. At that time we discussed about euthanasia, and also I shared about what happened in Indonesia. In Indonesia, actually, passive euthanasia, it's related with the withdrawal of overtreatment. I think is quite acceptable based on the discussion, and also if both the doctors and the family and also the patient agreed about that. This is the one that I want to share. Thank you. Again, thank you so much. I learned a lot from all of you.
May I say a few words as well while the final mark is being prepared? First of all, thank you very much for inviting to be a judge. It was a very interesting experience for me. And congratulations to the organizers for a very good organization. And I think you all faced these challenges of technology very well. And so that was great. I mean, in spite of all that, we still managed to listen to all the participants and make our decisions fairly. And to the participants, well done, all of you. It's marvelous. I mean, to me, euthanasia, the argument for it is fairly straightforward, and nothing new seems to be coming up really. But every time I hear debates like this, I always get a new argument against euthanasia. And today was, I think, no exception. I heard quite a few new arguments, and it was a great effort by all of you, very well prepared. And the take-home message is that although this debate will finish, the debate will go on, and we'll probably never have a answer that the whole world can accept. It's probably a local thing. So we have to be careful about our societies, our communities, and what is acceptable to them, as much as also what we decide through debating. And one thing that I would like to suggest to the 10 participants from the 5 institutions is, why don't you get together as an email group or as a WhatsApp group and try to put all those ideas together into a document for and against euthanasia coming from medical students. And that will be a great document for, I mean, I would love to read that myself. And maybe the association that was organizing this can take steps to distribute it and maybe put it in a journal or whatever. It will be worthwhile. And also an inspiration to all students in general that ethics is not a dry subject. It's an interesting subject. It's an important subject. You can engage with that and speak and think about it, because people generally think of ethics as something that's, you know, we deal with towards the end of our careers rather than the beginning of our careers. So why don't the 10 of you get together and prepare a common document, both with both the for and the against. And if you do, please send me a copy as well. So thank you once again for giving me this chance to be part of this. Thank you.
We will really love to publish that document. So once the organizers, they finalize the final document, the journal will love to publish that.
A huge thanks to all the judges for these wonderful comments, suggestions, and ideas. It was great hearing from you all. And now I would like to ask the participants as well to come ahead and share their thoughts and feedback about the entire event today. Would any participant like to come forward and speak?
I just want to say thank you to the organizers and all the sponsors of this event. It was truly a wonderful event. We had a bit of restriction these days of international travel and having the opportunity to share our ideas with our international colleagues because of COVID. And this is an absolutely wonderful opportunity for us. So thank you very much to the organizers. And it was a very well spent couple of hours. So thank you. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you. All right, do we have anyone else?
Okay, I just want to say thank you for all the judges, for all the committee, for do this debate international competition. And it is good for us, especially for students and all around the world. And I hope this is the hot of topic or issue in around the world can get a good solution for other country, for each and every country get a solution about euthanasia. And maybe it is good for combine and work together with medicines, with government and in the country, and get a rule or law for the euthanasia in their country. I think this is a good discussion and debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to say kudos to the organizers for organizing this whole thing seamlessly, and it was very well, I think, organized to like for each and every interruption that can ever occur. So thank you for that. That was very well done.
Thank you. So thank you again to all the participants for sharing their thoughts. We hope you all had a great time, and results are being compiled. So we'll get to it soon. Feel free to share any thoughts if any one of you has anything to say. The results will be here with us in a minute. And was someone speaking?
Yeah, just a little comment because we are waiting and to break the
Yes.
silence. I just say a few things. There is a very interesting book that I'm sure the seniors would have read, but maybe the medical students may perhaps not read, called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. It's a very interesting book. It's a small novel which came out in the 1930s, which described the world as it would be maybe another several hundred years from now. So it's a very futuristic novel. And it's a very small book. So if you get a chance to read that, if you haven't read it already, I suggest that you read it because, I mean, I feel that we are gradually walking or moving towards Aldous Huxley's idea of the future. And euthanasia is a good example for that, actually. And that is a future he describes where euthanasia is accepted as a, like a norm. And one of the, to me, a rather surprising or even shocking things that happened was that last year or the year before last, the Royal College of Physicians of London of UK, for the first time in its history, decided not to oppose euthanasia. They're not supporting it. I don't think doctors would ever, as an organization, ever support it. But that to me, it's a good thing because I don't support it either. But shockingly, they decided to stop opposing euthanasia. So I think it just goes to show the gradual progress of moving towards Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. It's an interesting book. I would recommend that you read it if you get a chance, if you haven't read it already, because it's just probably where we are moving towards. So have you got the results yet? Or do you want me to keep talking?
So the results will be in a minute. We're very close to it now.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that wonderful book suggestion, sir.
Yeah.
So a couple of minutes more. We all are as eager as you are to know the results. I'd also like to thank the organizing committee and all the organizations and everyone involved for making this event a success. It was truly an amazing experience being here.
So can I ask the students in this, the participants, do you think that introducing debates like this is a good idea for your undergraduate curriculum to improve your ethics learning? What do you think? Do you want to share that experience with us? Is it a good way to learn? Because I'm actually part of the people who are organizing the curriculum in my medical school. So what do you think? Do you think debates are a good idea?
Hi, I think I'd answer that. I think this was a really great educational experience for me. I'm in my third year of medical school, and my university does teach us a lot of ethics classes, and but it's always on the surface level, and these kind of debates made me look into it further, and I got to research a lot of things. And I also found out a lot of things about my country and how medical ethics are in my country. So I think it's definitely a great thing to organize in every single university out there.
Thank you, Santia. Can you tell me roughly how many hours you spent preparing for this debate?
I think about 3 to 4 hours every day ever since I got to know about this, which was 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So that's about 75 hours or so altogether, 21 days into 3 to 4.
Yeah, roughly.
That's a huge commitment, I must say. So I do hope that you will take on this the challenge of compiling all these thoughts into an article or a document, because you know, like 70 odd hours of preparation from 10 people, that's a lot of work on your part. And unfortunately, the reality is that if you don't do anything to follow up on this, in another 3-4 months, you would have forgotten much of what you spoke about today. That's the human nature. So if you can put it down in a document when it is still fresh in your minds, at least, you know, a lot more people can benefit from that beyond the people who are participating in this debate or watching this today. And also, even you will be able to remember what you used to think and know and say years down the line, and you might even have different ideas about this question in the years to come, and that will be interesting for you to follow your own thoughts. So do try to get together as a group, the 10 participants, and try to put your thoughts together, both the for and the against, without committing yourself to an answer. That's up to individual people to decide, but you can give the for and the against, including your responses to the rebuttals, and try to make a nice document.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this suggestion. We will definitely work towards making a document for the proceedings of this debate, because all the arguments presented as well informative and enlightening. So we would work towards that. We plan on making a booklet for this debate, and we will be sharing it with all of you when it is ready.
And here's the moment that we all have been waiting for. The results are in. And in third place, we have Team Chemistry. In second place, we have Team Code Blue. And in first place, we have Team Golden Oldies. Thank you so much to all the participants and all the judges for taking out time from their busy schedules.
I think you can also announce the names of the teams and the identity of the countries of the winning team. Now that the results have been compiled, it will be good to know who was who.
Thank you so much for judges. Once again, congratulations to all the other participants. It was a wonderful debate. This is Advay Andhekar, and I was speaking against, representing India.
This is Ananya Menon. I was speaking for, representing India.
Once again, thank you so much to IAG and all the organizers, all the judges for organizing such a wonderful event. And we had a lot of
Congratulations to all the participants. To me, all the teams are the winners. And congratulations to the first winner, the second and the third. But to me, all the teams are amazing, and you are all the winners. Congratulations also to the organizer. I'm really proud of you, the student. I think this is the only one in the world, the student like this. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, the winners, everybody, all the participants. Thank you, organizers. May I seek your permission to leave now?
Yes, sir. You may leave.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And all the best. Best wishes, all of you.
Can we have the photo of us?
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Can we have the photo of us?
Oh, yes. Firstly,
yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, please stop the screen sharing. Shivangi, then we can click one photo. Yeah. All the participants can just switch on their cameras.
Okay.
So I'll take one screenshot and share with everyone. Cigarettes. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
I'll
you
click
so
one
much.
on my phone as well, but just a second.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you so much. See you
Thank you so
later.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Claudia. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It was great to have you
Marshall,
all
thank you,
here.
Anastasia, and all the students.
Thank you.
See you. See you, Real. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye now.
Bye, sir. Bye. Thank you for
Can we
being
leave?
with us today. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
It was great having you here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Everyone left.
Just us now.
It's over. It was great, I think. It was a success. Thank you so much, everyone. बहुत मजा आया.
Yeah,
And
it was good.
finally हो
So
गया.
many scores.
Yeah, thank you, Balachandra, for doing that in such a hurry.
It's done now.
Yeah.
Congrats,
was great.
guys. I think it was
Yeah,
very
congratulations.
nice.
Yeah, it was a large, like, huge event, and we did it successfully. Congratulations. It was amazing. The hosts were amazing. Everyone was amazing. The timer didn't get stuck this time. And the scores, we could announce the results.
Guys, can we switch off the live stream?
Okay. Yeah, we'll cut it too.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Balachandra. End the live
Oh,
stream.
yeah.
We'll have to cut it. We'll have to cut this off. Okay. Bye.